On a day when Donald Trump formally abandoned his birtherism and his critics attacked him as a racist, he continued to climb in the polls. The Real Clear Politics average of 10 recent polls showed Hillary Clinton's lead down now to 1.5 points in a two-way race and but 1.1 points in a four-way race. And in a Fox News poll of likely voters out yesterday, Trump had taken the lead on the question of who's more trusted to handle the economy by 51 to 44%. As you can see, Trump holds the lead there, and he had done well on that question in earlier Fox polls. But just 2 weeks ago, in a poll of registered voters, Mrs. Clinton had pulled into a tie with him on the issue, 48 to 48, as you can see there. The co-founder and publisher of Real Clear Politics itself, Tom Bevan, is in Chicago to take us inside those poll numbers. Hello, Tom. What are you seeing, buddy?
Hey, Brett. How are you? Thanks for having me.
You bet. What are you seeing here?
Well, look, this is a big deal. I mean, the economy is, if you ask voters, the most important issue. It's the #1 issue nationally by 2 to 1. It's about 30%. Next closest issue is terrorism. The economy's been the #1 issue since the crisis of 2008. And so for Trump to take the lead on that measure is an important metric. And you combine that with one of his other strengths, which is that he'll bring change. People actually think he will bring change to the system. And that is clearly his biggest asset. And it's paying dividends for him in the later stages of this race.
Is there anything that you can see that he has done or said on that issue? I mean, I guess he had that speech this week on the subject. But what do you think is contributing to people's belief in him on this issue?
On this, it's hard to say on this issue in particular, Britt, and you mentioned he did have this economic speech, but I think by and large, I think it's been sort of the new Trump that we've seen over the last few weeks. Him looking presidential in Mexico, for example. All of that's contributing, I think, to the fact that people think he's up to the job, at least in that aspect. They still have questions about him on foreign policy and some of these other issues. But on the economy, he seems to be gaining, the trust of voters on that issue.
As you sift, as I know you do on a daily basis, through all the polling information and all the political news, because your website is so steeped in it, what else are you seeing out there that may be affecting this race?
Well, there are a couple other factors that are going on. Number one, Trump has consolidated Republicans. He's now polling, in most polls, he's polling as well as Hillary Clinton in terms of his support among Republicans as she's got with Democrats. He's also expanded his lead among independents. Independents have leaned Trump's way for most of this race. They did tighten up in this a few weeks ago, but he's now expanding his lead among independents as well. And so you take those factors into account, and it's one of the reasons that he's now back in this race nationally and certainly in a lot of these battleground states.
We're going to get into the battleground states a little later. I think it's worth noting here that Mitt Romney got, 93% on Election Day, 93% of Republicans. Trump is up to about where among Republicans, based on what you're seeing?
He's in the high 80s, low 90s, depending on the poll you look at. And again, that's roughly even with Hillary Clinton. And so that's one of the things that a lot of Republicans have come home to Trump over the last few weeks. And we'll see whether that trend continues and whether he can keep his lead among independents.
There was a time not terribly long ago where if a candidate could win his or her base and win the independents, even by a small margin, you'd win the election. Romney won the Republicans by 93%. He won independents by 5 percentage points and lost the election. So what kind of a margin does it appear to you that Donald Trump would need among independents in order to pull this election out?
That's a great question. I mean, I think you need at least, like you said, Romney won by a few percentage points. He's going to at least need that. But this goes into the other factor, which is there is an enthusiasm gap here. Republicans are excited about turning out to vote, at least, a decent portion of them are. And Hillary Clinton's got trouble with some of these members of her coalition, particularly among millennial voters who are really not as enthusiastic about voting for her as they were for Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012. And so the base is going to be an important part. The turnout among the base of each of the parties is going to be an important part of what happens here in just a few weeks.
Yeah, I guess Mrs. Clinton will have to be hoping that her superior ground game will offset the enthusiasm gap.
She will, but again, this is one of those elections where, she's already spent $150 million against Trump. It hasn't seemed to have much effect in the same way that Republicans did that in the primary, and it didn't seem to affect him. Trump didn't have much ground game in the primaries. He doesn't seem to have much now, but it doesn't seem to be affecting him, at least in the polls right now, but it might on Election Day.
Very interesting, Tom. Thanks very much.